Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. This is such a treat. And thank you to the Friends of the Library for making these programs possible and for helping us to greet everyone. And thank you to the Chelmsford Center for the Arts for allowing us to use this amazing space where we can gather again for a concert. Tonight we want to welcome Jeff Snow to perform his concert called The Softer Side of Celtic. Growing up as the son of a drummer in a bagpipe band and in a home where older Celtic songs were sung were the everyday sounds, Jeff developed a love for the music of Scotland, England, and Ireland. The magical sounds from the instruments coupled with the vocals and Jeff's love and knowledge of his Scottish heritage create a delightful program of traditional and original tunes and songs. We are very fortunate he could join us tonight during what is no doubt a very busy season for him. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight.
I think there's people out there. I can hear you, but I can't see you. Near Bainbridge town in the county Down, one morning last July, down a boarding green came a sweet colleen, smiled as she passed me by. She looked so neat from her two bare feet to the sheen of her nut brown hair. Coaxing elf had to pinch myself to be sure I was really there. From Bantry Bay to Derry Quay, from Galway to Dublin town, no maid I've seen like the sweet colleen met at the county Down. As she onward sped and I shook me head, I gazed with a feeling queer. And I said, says I, to a passer-by, who's the maid with the nut brown hair? Smiled at me with pride, says he, she's a gem of Ireland's crown. Young Rosie McGann, from the banks of the Bann, she's the star of the county Down. Bantry Bay to Derry Quay, from Galway to Dublin town. No maid I've seen like the sweet colleen met at the county Down. I've traveled a bit, but I never was a hit till my roving career began. Fair and square, I surrendered there to the charms of young Rose McCann. I'd a heart to let, no tenant yet, that I meet with a shawl or a gown. In she went, I asked no rent from the start of the county Down. Bantry Bay to Derry Quay, from Galway to Dublin town. No maid I've seen like the sweet colleen met at the county Down. Bantry Bay to Derry Quay, from Galway to Dublin town. No maid I've seen like the sweet colleen that I met at the county Down. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. The first one was a traditional Irish tune called Start the County Down. Many of you are probably familiar with that one. The second one was a traditional English tune. We know it most of the year as Greensleeves. That comes from the 1500s in England. And most of you should be familiar with that one. We roll it out at Christmas time, and we drop another set of words up on top of the melody, and we call it What Child Is This? But it is the same song. So I have played for you an Irish song and an English one. And that brings me around to playing a Scottish one. Full disclosure, I am a Scot. I am a Scot through and through. I think she told you that I grew up, my father was a drummer in a bagpipe band. And Scottish music and Scottish records were the things that I heard as a child growing up. And a lot of what you hear tonight will be things that I learned as a wee lad growing up and listening to the records turning in the house. I have the DNA test to prove it. It was sent to me for my birthday a couple years ago by one of my sons who decided he was going to find out exactly how Scottish I really was. He got tired of listening. When they were young and we'd drive around and go do the family trip thing, we listened to Scottish folk songs and Scottish bagpipe music and things in the car, not something a 12-year-old really wants to do. So he sent me a DNA test, and I am 83% Scottish. And he doesn't even want to talk about that anymore. In the mid-1800s, there was a period of time that in Scottish history became known as the Highland Clearances. And the Highland Clearances happened because the big tracts of land up through the center of Scotland, the whole middle of Scotland from like Edinburgh north and up into the outer islands, were all owned by a small handful or so of people who have pieces of land of 10, 20, 30,000 acres, huge tracts of land. And they broke them up into smaller pieces of just a handful of acres. And the people that lived there were called crofters. And the crofters were just like sharecroppers were here in America. They would work the property, they would raise animals or vegetables. They would do something with the property to raise enough money so that they could get by. And then they would go every year to the landowner and pay him a tax for the use of that land. And that worked really, really well. That worked really, really well for a long time, until the mid-1800s. And in the mid-1800s, the landowners decided that one big piece of land was better than thousands of small pieces of land, so we're going to do something to correct that. Just like I'm going to correct that noise in a minute. This is technical behind-the-scenes stuff, but I can't let that. You notice that I knew exactly where to hit it.
Fonzie must have been Scottish.
So they wanted to get the crofters off their land, so that they could have one big piece of land instead of thousands of small pieces of land. And they went off and they enlisted the British Army, because the British Army could be brought in to help you with problems such as this. And the British Army came in and they went after the crofters. Many of them just ran and went up into the mountains and the highlands and just disappeared. Many of them stayed and fought the British, and they were killed. And many of them were captured. And the ones that were captured were taken across to the coast and put on ships. Those ships came across the ocean. Those people were exiled from Scotland. They were just taken away. They wouldn't be a problem anymore. Many of those ships hit land up in what we know today as the maritime provinces of Canada. If you go up to Nova Scotia today, you'll find a lot of people of Scottish descent up there. That's how they got there. Many of the ships came across and they went up the Cape Fear River into the port of Wilmington, North Carolina. Those people were put off the ship and they went up into the Appalachian Mountains. If you go up into the Appalachian Mountains today, you'll find a lot of people of Scottish descent up there. That's how they got there. And that is kind of how I ended up in Chelmsford, Massachusetts tonight. My great-grandparents came in the Highland Clearances. So, as with so many things that we talk about tonight, and you learn about the Celtic lands, when some historical event happens, the way that they record it is in a song. And this is a song about the Highland Clearances. Hush, hush. Time to be sleeping, hush, hush. Dreams come creeping, dreams of peace and of freedom. Don't cry in your sleep, bonny babe. Once our valleys were ringing with the sounds of the children singing. Now sheep bleat late in the evening. Sheilings lie empty and broken. Hush, hush, time to be sleeping. Hush, hush, dreams come creeping. Dreams of peace and of freedom. Don't cry in your sleep, bonny babe. We stood with heads bowed in prayer while factors laid the cottages bare. The flames, the fires, the clear mountain air. Many were dead by the morning. Hush, hush, time to be sleeping. Hush, hush, dreams come creeping. Dreams of peace and of freedom. Don't cry in your sleep, bonny babe. Where was our proud Highland metal, our men once so feared in battle, now stand cowed, huddled like cattle, waiting to be shipped o'er the ocean. No use pleading or praying, now gone, gone, all hopes of staying. Hush, hush, the anchor's awaying. Don't cry in your sleep, bonny babe. Oh, 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 hush, hush, time to be sleeping. Hush, hush, dreams come creeping. Dreams of peace and of freedom. Don't cry in your sleep, bonny babe. Thank you. That was cheery, eh? No, it wasn't, but that was the reality of life back then. That's just the way that it was. We tend to think of Celtic music as the fiddle tunes that blow by us at a couple hundred beats a minute, and then bang your beer glass on the bar and sing loud songs. And there's a lot of that, but there's a lot more that doesn't get played. So that's what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to play some things that you've never heard before, like this one. And I try and follow that with a happier tune. And this is one of the happiest pieces of music that I know. It's a bagpipe tune, and it was written in 1976, which makes it a fairly new bagpipe tune in the world of bagpipe tunes. It was written by a man named Charlie Glendenning. And in 1976, Charlie Glendenning was the pipe major, which is the lead bagpiper and the leader of the City of Washington Pipe Band in Washington, D.C. It was, at that point, it was the preeminent pipe band in the United States, and he was one of the top 5 bagpipers in the United States. So he was a pretty big deal in the world of bagpiping, and he's still in the City of Washington Pipe Band today. He was getting married, and he was marrying a woman named Paula, and Paula was also a piper in the pipe band. Charlie wanted to do something special for her on the occasion of their wedding, so he wrote a tune for her. And he named the tune Moonstar, because that is Paula's favorite stone. He taught it to the bagpipe band. And he told Paula none of this. Picture, if you will, the cathedral in Washington, D.C., the back door's open, in comes Paula on her father's arm, and lining the walls of the cathedral, are the City of Washington Pipe Band, piping her into the tune that he wrote for her wedding. Yeah, wow. That pretty much messed it up for all the guys that came after him. We never had a chance after that one. But I was listening to Moonstar one day, and I just kind of heard it differently. And I said, somewhere in there, there's a guitar piece. So I called Charlie, because in the music world, you have to get permission for certain things. And I called him, and I said, Charlie, I think in the middle of Moonstar, in the middle of all that bagpipe stuff, I think there's a guitar piece hiding in there. And he told me very nicely that if I could find it, I could have it. So this is Moonstar. Isn't that a pretty one? Yeah. Yes, indeed. In 1851, Michael Considine was born in County Clare, Ireland. He was born in a little crossroads village at the top of the hill. It was called Spancel Hill. I am told by somebody who grew up there that Spancel Hill no longer really exists as a place. It's kind of like one of those crossroad places where there's a marker that this is where Spancel Hill used to be. But in the 1800s, Spancel Hill was a pretty happening place, I guess. And Michael Considine was born, and as he grew up, he realized that as so many other young Irishmen did back then, that there was no future for him in Ireland in the 1800s. Because if you think back, there was the potato famine and all the other things that were going on. And they all looking for someplace else to go and find their way in the world. So as so many others did, Michael Considine came across the ocean and he came into the port of Boston. And he was in Boston for less than a year before he came to the conclusion that there were a lot more Irish lads looking for work in Boston than there was work for them. And if he was going to make something of himself in America, he was going to have to go someplace else. He had heard of the gold rush and the prosperity in California, so across the country he went. Michael Considine settled in San Francisco. He spent the rest of his life in San Francisco, and Michael Considine died in San Francisco in 1873 at the age of 22. History does not tell us what Michael Considine died of, but it does tell us this. When he was sick and dying, he knew that he was sick and dying, and he knew that he was not going to live a whole lot longer. And that made him sad, A, because he was dying, but also because a mark of the success of the Irish immigrants here was to get enough resources, enough money to go back to Ireland and see your family and say, look at me, I went to America, and I can afford to come back and see you, and your family would think you were a success because you had the resources to do that. And he knew that he was never going to get back to see his family again, and that also made him very sad. Not too long before he died, he had one of those vivid dreams that we all have once in a while, and in that vivid dream, he went back to Ireland. And he did all the things that he would have done had he had the opportunity to do it. And it was really one of those special dreams. And when he woke up in the morning, he wrote the dream down. And he took those notes from that dream and he turned them into a poem. Thankfully, he had the foresight to take that poem, stuff it in an envelope, and mail it back to his nephew in Ireland. That is the reason that the poem survived all this time, and it still exists today. This is Michael Considine's poem. Last night as I lay dreaming of pleasant days gone by, my mind was bent on rambling, to Erin's Isle I did fly. I stepped aboard a vision, and I sailed off with a will, till we gladly came to anchor at the cross on Spancel Hill. It being the 23rd of June, the day before the fair, Erin's sons and daughters, they were all assembled there. The young, the old, the stout and the bold, they came to sport and kill. It's a curious combination at the fair on Spancel Hill. I went to see my old home, as every stone could tell. The old Bourne was just the same, the apple trees over the well. I miss my sister Ellen, my brothers Pat and Bill. There only were strange faces at the house on Spancel Hill. I went to see my neighbors to hear what they might say. The old were getting feeble, the young ones turning gray. I met with Taylor Quigley, he's brave as ever still. He used to mend my breeches when I lived on Spancel Hill. I took a flying visit to my first and only love. She's pure as any lily, she's gentle as a dove. She threw her arms around me, saying, Michael, I love you still. She's Mac the ranger's daughter, she's the pride of Spancel Hill. And then I stooped to kiss her, as I did in days of yore. She said, Michael, you're only joking, as you often were before. The cock crew in the morning, he crew both loud and shrill. I awoke in California, far, far from Spancel Hill. And then my vision faded and tears came to my eyes. I'd hoped to see that dear old land once more before I died. May the joyous King of Angels his choicest blessings spill on that glorious piece of nature, the cross on Spancel Hill. Thank you. Still ringing, can you hear it? It's still there. Wherever I go, as I travel around, this instrument attracts a lot of attention. Yeah. And some of you probably know what it is. Most of you probably do not. This is called an Autoharp. And autoharps they were school teachers' instruments essentially. That's what they came into being for back first in the early 1900s and again from the mid-1950s to the mid-1960s. They were also school teachers' instruments. They were designed to be played laid flat and strummed with a pick. As a rhythm instrument. And that didn't work terribly well because the instruments were not very well constructed and they went out of tune quickly, and the teachers didn't have the time or the inclination to figure out how to work them. In the mid-1950s, what happened was the Oscar Schmidt company, the company that was making, still is producing autoharps, got the marketing plan to put autoharps in every middle school that they could find. And every middle school child will get exposed to the autoharp. Every middle school child will love the autoharp. And every middle school child will want an autoharp for their birthday or Christmas, or pick one. And we'll sell lots of autoharps. Well, the idea was pretty good, I guess. The execution, not so much. Because they were making them to give away, so they made them as cheaply as they could. And they made them out of plywood. And if you know anything about acoustic instruments, you know that they make their sound by the vibration of the wood. And the plywood has no resonating properties whatsoever. You might as well just take some strings and lay them on a cement floor and have at it. And they didn't stay in tune, and they were black. That's how you can tell if you see a black laminate autoharp, it's one of those. And up here in New England, they're still in the older schools, you might find some in the back of the music closets because they just got piled up in the back. So if you have any really old middle schools or schools that were middle schools up here in Chelmsford, go look in the back of the music closet and you might find some if they haven't thrown them out already. If you do find them, what I ask you is please do not bring it to my house. That has happened. Knock on the door. You the guy that plays the Autoharp? Yeah. Here. They're not salvageable, they're not usable. But if you do find one, they are really good in the summer at getting the fire pit going. You just throw a match on them and they go. So it's really very cool. So somewhere in the 1980s, somebody, we're not really sure who, but somebody, probably a Scotsman, decided that there must be a harder way to do this. So instead of strumming it, we're going to finger pick it. So it's much like trying to finger pick a guitar or a banjo or any other instrument that you might finger pick, except that this has 37 strings and that one has 6. So it's a little more challenging, but the sound is worth it. Let's see if you can recognize this one. Thank you. It never ceases to amaze me how much sound comes out of something so tiny. Yeah. World War II was breaking out over in Europe. And on the west coast of Scotland, in a region that's known as the Argyll region of Scotland, in a little village called Campbellton, Scotland, was a man named George McIntyre. And George McIntyre over in Campbellton was the piper in the local pipe band. Every village in Scotland to this day has their own little pipe band, and he was in the Campbellton pipe band back then. And as so many other young men did, he decided he would go off and do his part, and he joined the British Army to go off and fight the war. He was not there for very long before he was captured and put in a prisoner of war camp, and he was held there for the duration of the war. While he was being held in the camp, he spent his days playing his bagpipe tunes over and over again in his head, kind of a way to stay connected to his music, stay connected to his village, and just trying to keep him sane in hopes that he would get home one day. While he was there, he also wrote a bagpipe tune in his head. And when he did get out, he went back to Campbellton, and he taught the tune to the bagpipe band. And if you go to Scotland today, you might hear this one as the pipe band goes down the street because it's become a regular part of Celtic pipe repertoire. The tune is called The Hills of Argyll. This instrument is special, and it has taken me to all over the United States and different parts of the world, and it is just very cool. I've been blessed, and I know that I can play a lot of different instruments. But when the house is dark and quiet, and it is just me and the cat that my son left there 13 years ago, he's gonna come back and get it one of these days, he says. At this point, probably not. This is the one, there's a different son than the one that gave me the ancestry test. They're all kind of unique in their own way, I suppose. But this is the instrument that I pick up and play for myself. It's just that special. It is, it's beautiful. So, I will play it for you tonight. This is an Irish tune, an old Irish sailor's tune. It is called South Wind. Welsh tunes, you probably recognized it if I got most of the notes in the right place. That happens sometimes. This instrument, I tend to play a lot of bagpipe music on this instrument. And the reason that I do it is because musically, they just fit together. The range of the notes. Bagpipes only have 9 notes. That's all they have. So that makes it pretty easy to drop it in a range of 2.5 octaves and make everything fit. So this next one is a bagpipe tune. And I'm guessing that you're a very forgiving bunch, so if I don't get it, you'll be okay. I can't really see anything out there, but I'm sure you're still there because I can hear you. This tune was written in the 1700s as something that came after the Scots went into one of their many battles with the British. The Scots army was led into battle by 100 bagpipers. That's what went in first. And that sounds kind of silly in today's world, but back then they didn't have guns and mortars and grenades and all those kinds of things. They had rocks and sticks. So getting led into battle by pipers wasn't nearly as dangerous as it might sound on the surface. So they wrote a tune commemorate this battle, and they call the tune 100 Pipers. As happens with so many Celtic tunes, we talked about Greensleeves and What Child Is This? The different cultures get a hold of it and they write their own words to the melody, and it becomes its own song. So the Irish, somewhere in the late 1800s, I believe, got a hold of 100 Pipers, and they wrote their own words to it. So the Irish, I can't do this with a straight face. I told you how noble this was for the Scots, right? Going off into battle and beating back the British, and what we call the tune. The Irish call this tune, "The Hair Fell Off My Coconut." You know that has to be true, that I can't possibly make something like that up, right? That is "The Hair Fell Off My Coconut." It's the Irish song. So we're going to play the Scottish version. And it goes by kind of quick, so if I get it, you're going to think that was really cool. And if I don't get it, you can just look at me and say, what a pity. Thank you. I will circle back to that one before we're done tonight. Play a little more in the harp because it's just that special. You may have noticed when I play the harp, I tend to close my eyes. I do that as part of an experiment most nights. I want to see if when I open my eyes, the people are still there. Most of the time, they still are. Yeah, do you have a question? What is it? Is this? That is walnut and cherry. Yeah. Is it what? It's glued together. Yeah. It was made. This harp was made by a man in Newport, Pennsylvania. There's a small handful of custom harp builders now, and this man was. He was the one that actually started the custom harp business, and he was one of the last ones he made. So it's a very special instrument. It attracts a lot of attention. So does this, but for an entirely different reason. This is a bouzouki. It's kind of an interesting looking thing. When the sailing ships would leave the ports in the British Isles back in the 1700s, they would go off to ply their wares or deliver their products. They could be gone for upwards of 7 years. Now that sounds crazy because you're thinking about it in terms of today. But think about it in terms of the 1700s. You left a port in Ireland, let's say, with a load of stuff to go to Boston. And it took you a couple of months to get there because the sailing ships just didn't go that fast. And you'd get to Boston and you'd offload. Then you'd wait for another load. You'd pick up whatever load you could find. And you'd take that load wherever it was going in the world. And you drop that load off and grab another load there and take it wherever it was going. So if you follow the dots, you can see that after a while, you're kind of hopscotching your way around. And it could be upwards of 7 years before you got home, before you got back. So let's look at it this way. You are the wife or the girlfriend of an Irish sailor, or any Celtic sailor. You walk him down to the port. You kiss him goodbye. He walks up the ramp onto the ship. Ship sails away. You wave. He waves. And then you go home. And you wait for upwards of 7 years to see if he's coming back. And sometimes he did. And sometimes he didn't. When he didn't come back, you probably didn't know why. There were no phones back then. There was no internet back then. There was just, he was gone. Gone was gone. There was a system where you could leave a letter someplace and then try and get it back, but that worked very poorly, if at all. So for the most part, they were just gone. And you never knew why they didn't come back. The ship could have sunk. The pirates could have killed him. He might have found somebody he likes better in another place. All of those things were possible. You just never knew why. So, as what happens in the Celtic world, somebody writes a song about it. This is a song about an English sailor. His name is John Riley. Fair young maid in her garden, strange young man came riding by, said, fair young maid, will you marry me? This then, sir, was her reply. No, kind sir, I cannot marry thee. I've a love, he sails the deep salt sea. He's been gone these 7 years, still no man shall marry me. What if he's died or in a battle slain? What if he's drowned in the deep salt sea? What if he's found another love? He and his new love both married be. If he's died or in a battle slain, I will die when the moon doth wane. If he's drowned in the deep salt sea, I will be true to his memory. He picked her up in his arms, kisses gave her 1, 2, and 3. Said, weep no more, my own true love. I am your love, lost John Riley. Weep no more, my own true love. I am your love, lost John Riley. Thank you. You thought that was going to be another sad one, didn't you? Fooled you. Here's the hint. You can't play sad music on a bouzouki. It just doesn't work. So, but this is the part that you have sat for the better part of an hour waiting for. You just didn't know you were waiting for it. But we're there. This is the part where you're going to sing for me. Ooh, this is going to be good. Yeah. But this is really simple. I'm going to give you 4 words. I'm going to give you part of the chorus of a song. Only 4 words. And I'm going to lead you through it. It's really very simple. I would not let you fail. But I want to tell you the story. I told you a little bit about my dad before, and I told you a little bit about how I grew up in a very Scottish household and all of that. My father's name was Donald. And his best friend, who was also Scottish, coincidentally, was also named Donald. The way it worked out. And Donald would get together when I was a lad growing up in the house, and they would put the records on, and they would sing the songs, and they would dance around the house, and they would do all those kinds of things. And they would always invite their friend Johnny Walker to join them. You know him up here in Chelmsford, do you? Johnny Walker was always the first one to leave. But they would put the records on, and He would sing the songs, and I knew that when this one song popped up in the rotation, it was going to be played over and over and over and over and over again. Song about a man named Donald. And this Donald lived up on the Isle of Skye, which is off the west coast of Scotland. It might be the prettiest place in the world. It's amazing how nothing can look so pretty. There's nothing on Skye. It's just rocks and ocean and the best oysters you'll ever have if you can find the right place. And Donald left Skye, and he went down to London on a vacation, wearing his kilt. And the people in London were kind of taken aback by that because they'd never seen such a thing as a man wearing a kilt. They weren't quite sure what that was and what that was all about. And everywhere that he went on his vacation in London, the people would look at him and say, "Donald, what are your trousers?" Because they expected him to be wearing trousers. So, we're going to sing a song about Donald and his kilt and his lack of trousers. And you're going to help me sing the chorus. I will sing the first line of the chorus, and you will sing back to me as loud and as proud as you can the second line of the chorus. Easy enough? First line of the chorus is mine. I will sing, "Let the Wind Blow High." Man, would you like to share with us why you're laughing so much? No? Why you found that so funny? No? We can guess. You will sing back to me, "Let the wind blow low." So it's very simple. It goes just like this. Let the wind blow high, let the wind blow low. Ready? Let the wind blow high. Perfect. Through the streets in my kilt I'll go. All the lassies shout, "Hello, Donald, where's your trousers?" I've come down from the Isle of Skye. I'm no very big and I'm awful shy. The lassies shout when I go by, "Donald, where's your trousers? Let the wind blow high." Through the streets in my kilt I'll go. All the lassies shout, "Hello, Donald, what are your trousers?" Well, I went down to London town and I had some fun in the underground. The ladies turned their heads around, saying, "Donald, what are your trousers? Let the wind blow high." Through the streets in my kilt I'll go. All the lassies shout, "Hello, Donald, what are your trousers?" Well, a lassie took me to a ball. It was slippery in the hall, and I was afraid that I might fall, but I wasn't wearing me trousers. Let the wind blow high. Through the streets in my kilt I'll go. All the lassies shout, "Hello, Donald, where's your trousers?" Well, the lassies want me, everyone. Let them catch me if they can. You cannot put the big son of Highland man, 'cause they won't wear no trousers. Let the wind blow high. Through the streets in my kilt I'll go. All the lassies shout, "Hello, Donald, where's your trousers?" To wear the kilt is mighty light. It is not wrong, I know it's right. The Highlanders would get a fright if they saw me wearing trousers. Let the wind blow high. Through the streets in my kilt I'll go. All the lassies shout, "Hello, Donald, where's your trousers?" Let the wind blow high. Through the streets in my kilt I'll go. All the lassies shout, "Hello, Donald, where's your trousers?" Oh, that was fun, wasn't it? I bet when you came in here tonight, you didn't expect to sing that. It's going to get worse. Let's do another Scottish one because that's just what this instrument's made for, pretty much. This one is not old, but it's a really cool newish Scottish song. Some of you may be familiar with a 70s, 80s, and 90s Scottish folk band called Silly Wizard. Yes? Some people? Yeah. Silly Wizard was around for a long time. If you remember Silly Wizard, they were fronted by a man named Andy Stewart. Andy Stewart had this really amazingly distinct voice. And if you ever heard him once, you would recognize it if you heard it anywhere for the rest of your life. He was just an amazing, amazing singer. He sadly died a few years ago as a result of a surgery that didn't go the way that it was planned. But he was also a really good writer. And among the things that he wrote was probably the saddest song I've ever heard. I'm not going to play you that one tonight. But he wrote this song that it will just stop you. It is so sad. But he also wrote this one. And we're going to go back to Argyll. Remember we talked about Argyll with George McIntyre over on the West Coast. And Silly Wizard was touring over in the Argyll region at one point. And Andy Stewart met a young woman over there. And he became very smitten with her. Unfortunately, she did not become smitten with him. Didn't work out. So that didn't stop him from trying. And he wrote a song for her. He calls the song The Queen of Argyll. Gentlemen, it is my duty to inform you of a beauty, but I ask of you a favor, not to seek her for a while, though I own she is a creature of character and feature, but no words could paint the picture of the queen of all Argyll. And if you could have seen her there, boys, if you had just been there, the swan was in her movements, the morning in her smile, all the roses in the garden. Bow and ask her pardon, but no one could match the beauty of the queen of all Argyll. On that evening that I mentioned, I passed with light intention through a part of our dear country, known for beauty and for style, the place of noble thinkers, scholars and great drinkers, but above them all for splendor shone the queen of all Argyll. And if you could have seen her there, boys, if you had just been there, the swan was in her movements, the morning in her smile, all the roses in the garden. Bow and ask her pardon, but no one could match the beauty of the queen of all Argyll. So my lads, I need must leave you. My intentions know to grieve you, no indeed would I deceive you. I'll see you in a while, I must find some way to gain her, to court her and to tame her, for I fear my heart's in danger for the queen of all Argyll. And if you could have seen her there, boys, if you had just been there, the swan was in her movements, the morning in her smile, all the roses in the garden. Bow and ask her pardon, for no one could match the beauty of the queen of all Argyll. Thank you so much. Wow. You guys are really excited tonight. I'm glad you're excited, cuz you did really well with that sing-along thing. Hang on, I gotta get this to work. It's kind of an important piece of equipment right here. There we go. You did really well with that sing-along thing, so we're gonna do another one. We're gonna do an Irish sing-along. And this time I'm going to give you the whole chorus instead of 4 words, because you nailed that, so you can do this. So I will teach you the chorus and we'll go from there. Ready? Mary Mac's father's making Mary Mac, marry me. My father's making me Mary, Mary Mac. I'm gonna marry Mary for my Mary to take care of me. We'll all be feeling merry when I marry Mary Mac. That's your part. I got the rest. You ready? No, huh? Okay. All right. I'll make it easy for you. I will sing the first part of the chorus. I will sing Mary Mac's father's making Mary Mac marry me. You will sing back to me, my father's making me Mary, Mary Mac. My father's making me Mary, Mary Mac. I'm counting on you. Ready? Just like this. I'll show you. Mary Mac's father's making Mary Mac marry me. My father's making me Mary, Mary Mac. Ready? Mary Mac's father's making Mary Mac marry me. This is that moment when I'm really glad I can't see you. And I'm sorry that I can still hear you. Let's try it again. Mary Mac's father's making Mary Mac marry me. My father's making me Mary, Mary Mac. Ready? Mary Mac's father's making Mary Mac marry me. I'm gonna marry Mary for my Mary to take care of me. We'll all be feeling merry when I marry Mary Mac. Good. Well, there is a little lass, her name is Mary Mac. Make no mistake, she's a girl I want to tack, and a lot of other fellas try to get up on her track, and I'm happening to think that I'm early. Mary Mac's father's making Mary Mac marry me. I'm gonna marry Mary for my Mary to take care of me. Well, I'll be feeling Mary when I marry Mary Mac. Well, this little lass, she's got a lot of class, got a lot of brass, and her father thinks I'm gas, so I'd be a silly ass if I let the matter pass. Her father said, you treat me really fairly. Mary Mac's father's making Mary Mac marry me. I'm gonna marry Mary for my Mary to take care of me. Well, I'll be feeling Mary when I marry Mary Mac. Mary and her mother go an awful lot together. In fact, you hardly ever see the one without the other. And all the people wonder if it's Mary or her mother, or the both of them together that are important. Mary Mac's father's making Mary Mac marry me. I'm gonna marry Mary for my Mary to take care of me. Well, I'll be feeling Mary when I marry Mary Mac. That was really good. Good, take a break. I'll do this one. Or you can sing this one too. Let's do an Irish sea shanty. You know what a sea shanty is. The sailors used to sing it when they were working. You probably even know this one. What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? Early in the morning. Way hey, up she rises. Way hey, up she rises. Way hey, up she rises. Early in the morning. Put him in the cabin with the captain's daughter. Put him in the cabin with the captain's daughter. Put him in the cabin with the captain's daughter. Early in the morning. Way hey, up she rises. Way hey, up she rises. Way hey, up she rises. Early in the morning. Shave his belly with a rusty razor. Shave his belly with a rusty razor. Shave his belly with a rusty razor. Early in the morning. Way hey, up she rises. Way hey, up she rises. Way hey, up she rises early in the morning. Let's take another detour. We take detour off of detour. There's probably a word for that, but I don't know what it is. 1962, in Hollywood, California, the music department of a television studio was handed a pilot episode for a TV show. Said, here it is, write us the theme song for the show. They took Drunken Sailor. They moved about 4 notes to different places, just enough to change it and beat any copyright stuff. And they came up with this. Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic port aboard this tiny ship. Gilligan's Island is based on Drunken Sailor. Now we know how we got there. The mate was a mighty sailing man, the skipper brave and pure. 5 passengers set sail that day for 3 hours. I heard the one more verse because you're so good. The weather started getting rough. The tiny ship was tossed. If not for the frigate feels. That was so good. What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? Early in the morning. Way hey, up she rises. Way hey, up she rises. Way hey, up she rises. Early in the morning. Mary Mac's father's making Mary Mac marry me. I'm gonna marry Mary for my Mary to take care of me. Will always feel Mary when I marry Mary Mac. All right, that was excellent. That was the best I've heard in a long time. But you did so well. We're gonna do one more time, and this last time we're gonna do it fast. Mary Mac's father making Mary Mac marry me. I'm gonna marry Mary for my Mary to take care of me. Will always feel Mary when I marry Mary Mac. Probably not the time to tell you this, but we are being live streamed tonight on YouTube. So the whole world is listening to you. Yeah, go figure. That was very good. I have done this a lot and I've heard bad and that was not it. Are you having fun tonight? Part of my goal is that you have fun and that you come away understanding a little more about the Celtic lands than you knew when you walked in here. But Before I go too much further, if you're having fun tonight, please, please, please support your library, support the Friends of the Library, and support this beautiful building. God, I pulled up on this tonight and I went, nah, I'm not really playing in there tonight, never mind. Yeah, it's just so cool. I've driven through Chelmsford on 495 1,000 times or more, including twice last week, and it's just, you know, I didn't know this thing was here, just a mile down the road from the highway. It's spectacular in here. And Susan and Dan and the people that are here, that are running this place, it's just spectacular. But as much as I'd like you to think I just kind of randomly wandered in here tonight and started playing, I didn't. And Jessica and the good folks at the library, they tracked me down. They said, would you please come up and play for the people in Chelmsford? So please support them, because they do this for you, and it allows me to come here and continue to make a living without a real job. It's just kind of cool. To that end, if you're enjoying the music, there are digital downloads of me. Pretty much any place they have digital downloads. I was on iTunes before the Beatles were on iTunes, which blew my mind every time I went out to the mailbox and got a check and thought, Paul McCartney didn't get one of these. But when he did, it was a lot bigger than mine. And so there's different ways you can continue to hear it. I have a few CDs. The CD business that's pretty much what I have left. After all these years of CDs, after reprints and multiple CDs, and lots of them are gone, and it's the way it works. But if you take them home, I don't have to. So that's really good for me. But I'm going to play for a little while longer, if I may. And this is one you might know, and since you're singing a bunch. This one you might know, and if you look this one up on the internet, and the internet is never wrong, it will tell you that it is a traditional Scottish folk song. And you go, oh, that's cool. Except that it isn't. It was written in 1957 in Providence, Rhode Island, by a man named Francis McPeak, who was from Belfast, Ireland. So that doesn't tick the Scottish box, and it doesn't tick the traditional box, but that doesn't make it any less pretty. And it might be one of the prettiest ones that we have. So, if you know it, sing along. Oh, the summertime is coming, and the leaves are sweetly turning. Wild mountain thyme grows around the purple heather. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pull wild mountain thyme from around the purple heather. Will you go, lassie, go? I will build my love a bower by yon pure, clear crystal fountain. Around it I will pile all the wild flowers of the mountain. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pull wild mountain thyme from around the purple heather. Will you go, lassie, go? I will range through the wild and the deep glen so dreary, returning with my spoil to the bower of my dearie. Will you go, lassie, go? This is an English children's song from the 1500s. It is called the Elfin Knight, E-L-F-I-N-K-N-I-G-H-T. Who's going to be the brave one and ask the question? Hmm? The song that you know as Scarborough Fair. And as soon as I did that, you said, that's Scarborough Fair. And he told us it was the Elfin Knight. He's lost his mind. No, he didn't. Well, I probably did, but not for that reason. The song that you know as Scarborough Fair began its musical life as the Elfin Knight in the 1500s. If you go to Wikipedia, you will find there is a page for the Elfin Knight, and on that page there are the original words from the 1500s. And you can start reading through the words, and you're going to go, oh yeah, that line's in Scarborough Fair. It's not there line for line, word for word, but there's enough of it there that you can see that the songs are connected, that one came from the other. Remember the folk process. That's kind of what happened with this song. The folk process is when the minstrels, the people like me that go from place to place and they teach you a song. And then you remember the song, and I leave and you try and play it, and you play what you remember, and then you make up the rest. And you teach it to somebody else, so the song's slightly different when the next guy gets it. So over hundreds of years, that song popped out in about 1900 as Scarborough Fair, and no longer known as the Elfin Knight. And the part that you recognize, that little riff in the beginning that was so identifiable for the song, was written by an English folk singer in about 1957. His name is Martin Carty. He's still alive. He wrote that. He wrote the arrangement to Paul and taught it to Paul Simon when Paul Simon was touring with him over in England in the 1960s. And Paul Simon came back to America, and he wrote the second part of the song, the canticle, which in the musical world is like a call and answer type thing. And he put it together, and it came out beautifully, and it was wonderful. Sadly, Paul Simon never gave Martin Carty the credit for that, and he never paid him the royalty for that, which is kind of a sad thing. Martin Carty, to this day, whenever he plays that song, he reminds people that he never got paid. In Paul Simon's defense, he says that his people have been sending Martin Carty a check every month for over 30 years, and he's never cashed any of them. I'm believing the other side. But in 1855, John Hunt was born in Ireland. I'm sorry, John Hunt was not born. John Hunt came to America in 1855. He came across the ocean. He left as so many other people did. We talked about Michael Considine leaving Ireland. John Hunt was another one of those. He came to America in 1855, and he settled in Aberdeen, Maryland. He got a job, he got a house, he got married, he had children, he did all those things. He spent the rest of his life in Aberdeen, Maryland. John Hunt died in Aberdeen, Maryland, and John Hunt is buried in Aberdeen, Maryland. As I tell you the story and play for you the song, please keep in mind that when John Hunt came here in 1855, he was 13 years old. Let's put that in perspective for a minute. And let's think about our 13-year-old son or daughter, or our 13-year-old grandson or daughter, or our 13-year-old niece or nephew, or just a kid down the street, 13 years old. Leaving home, going to a country where they don't know anybody, and they have no idea at all what they're going to do when they get there, but they know that that's what they have to do if they're going to survive. John Hunt was one of those. He never saw his family again. They never saw him. Remember, back then there were no telephones, there was no internet, there was none of those things. The only means of communication that they had was the annual family letter. And every year, John Hunt's father, a man named Brian, would go next door to the schoolmaster's house. The village schoolmaster back in Ireland was named Pat McNamara. Brian Hunt could neither read nor write, so he would go over there and he would tell Pat McNamara about all the comings and goings of the family. Who got married, who had children, who bought a house, who died. All of the things that we do today instantly with a text message. They did once a year with the annual family letter. And every letter ended with a request for John to come home and see his family, and he never did. Let us jump ahead to about 1972. In 1972, a man named Peter Jones was cleaning out a house in Aberdeen, Maryland. And in that house, he found a stack of papers. Those papers were the letters that had survived over 100 years that had been written to John Hunt. And he took those letters and he laid them out. There's 22, I think, in the series. He laid them out and he turned them into something that we know today. It's the Ballad of Kilkelly, Ireland, the story of the Hunt family. Kilkelly, Ireland, 1860, my dear and loving son John. Your good friend the schoolmaster Pat McNamara, so good to write these words down. Your brothers have all gone to find work in England, the house is so empty and sad. The crop of potatoes is sorely infected, a third to a half of them bad. Your sister Bridget and Patrick O'Donnell are going to be married in June. Your mother says not to work on the railroad. Be sure to come on home soon. Kilkelly, Ireland, 1870, my dear and loving son John. Hello to your missus, to your 4 children, may they grow healthy and strong. Our Michael has got in a wee bit of trouble, I don't think that he'll ever learn. Because of the dampness, there's no turf to speak of, we have nothing to burn. Bridget is happy and ain't the child's for her, you know, she's got 6 of her own. You say you found work, you don't say what kind. When are you coming home? Kilkelly, Ireland, 1880, Michael and John, my sons. I'm sorry to give you the very sad news, your mother's passed on. We buried her down at the church in Kilkelly. Your brothers and Bridget were there. You don't have to worry, she died very quickly. Remember her in your prayers. It's so good to hear that Michael's returning. With money he's sure to buy land. The crop has been poor and the people are selling at any price that they can. 90, my dear and loving son John. I suppose that I must be close on to 80. 30 years you've been gone. Because of all of the money you sent me, I'm still living out on my own. Michael has built himself a fine house. Bridget's daughters are grown. Thank you for sending your family picture, their lovely young women and men. Why don't you think about coming to visit? Joy to see you again. Kelly, Ireland, 1892. My dear brother John, I'm sorry I didn't write sooner to tell you that father's passed on. He was living with Bridget. She said he was cheerful, healthy right up to the end. You should have seen him play with the grandchildren of Pat McNamara, your friend. We buried him alongside of Mother down at the Kilkelly churchyard. He was a strong and feisty old man, considering his life was so hard. It's funny the way he kept talking about you. He called for you at the end. Why don't you think about coming to visit? We'd all like to see you again. That was pretty powerful. And that song has attached itself to me over the years for all kinds of reasons, and all of them good reasons. And it's one that I play every day. It just belongs every day, and I will play it every day as long as I'm able, and tell the story every day as long as I'm able. I have a transcription of the 22 letters. It's a little hard to get done, but they're there. And if you go to my website, there's cards floating around with my picture on one side and the website information, all that's on the back. There's a page for Kilkelly, Ireland on the website. And on that page are the first and last of the letters. So you can read the first one, you can read the last one, and that will give you a flavor for what it was. But I tell you all that to tell you this. I have all of the letters together in a PDF file. And if you go to the website and you read the letters and you piques your curiosity, there's a button you can push right on that page. It pops up an email window. And you can send me an email and just tell me that you saw me up in Chelmsford and that you would like to read all of the letters. And my gift to you, my thanks to you for coming out tonight, would be the file of all 22 letters. And you can read through them and you can kind of come to your own conclusions about what life was like back then. Because I have the transcription of the letters on the internet and the availability of all the letters on the internet, I hear from people all over the world who Google Kilkelly letters and they find me and they will send me an email. And I'm always happy to send anybody that wants in the letters file to just kind of keep the story moving forward. About 7 years ago now, I received an email from a gentleman who lives in a little small town just outside of Atlantic City, New Jersey, way down in the bottom of New Jersey down there. And he had Googled Kilkelly letters, and he had found me, and could I send him the file? It happens all the time. I send him the file, thank him for his interest. He got back to me almost immediately. Remember the part of the song about Michael? Michael had kind of a prominent role in the song. This is Michael Hunt's great-grandson. The Hunt family knew the song, they knew the story, but they had never seen the letters. Yeah. So he and I corresponded back and forth over a number of years. Sadly, we lost him to COVID last year. but he was able to fill in some of the family history for me. If you go to the Kilkelly page, you'll find some pictures on that page that he took on a visit to Kilkelly. They came from him. And it's just a very cool thing. I have played that song every day, as I told you, and I've played it in rooms full of Irish grandmothers. Yeah. And you can imagine how that goes over with the Irish grandmothers. And I will tell you a little secret about an Irish grandmother. An Irish grandmother can hide an entire box of Kleenex on her person. I start playing the song, and if I can, don't have like these, but if I can see out into the room, here they come. Up this sleeve and up that sleeve. From the front of the room, when you look towards the back, it looks like it's snowing. So, if you have any interest, in that, please make use of it, because it's a powerful story, and I'd be happy to send you the letters. I'm going to play just a couple more on the harp. The first one is one of my favorite old Scottish pieces. This one is very rare. It's called Ian Ruda's Lament. And this one goes back to the 1500s, but nobody really knows where it came from. It's only been recorded 3 times as far as I know. I learned it off a bagpipe record in 1970 something. And the Battlefield Band has recorded it. Some of you who are Celtic music fans may be familiar with them. They recorded it. And then I recorded it at one point. But we don't know who Ian Ruda was, but obviously he died, and somebody felt bad enough about it that they wrote the tune for him. So this is Ian Ruda's Lament. And then I will wrap this up with another old tune that gets played at the end of the sessions a lot over in the Celtic lands. It's a Robert Burns piece, and you'll know the words, and you can sing along nice and loud. So I thank you for coming tonight. Please support the libraries. Please support the Arts Center. What a gem you have up here. It's really very special. I'm happy that I can be a part of it. There are not a lot of pieces of music written for the Autoharp because there's just not a lot of people that can play this. So there's not a lot of music. Most of the music that you hear on something like this is just stuff like you heard tonight that gets carried over from some other place. This is one that was written for the Autoharp. I play this a lot at weddings when I play the harp at a wedding. It's a great recession when the bride is going out. It's a three-parter. It is called Crown the Queen. And again, I thank you. Thank you, thank you.